Thank you for fellow artists for the constant inspiration. Also, thank you, Creative Capital, for making me feel tall today, including this box and any other aspects. Thank you. My grandfather named me Bahar, which means spring. I grew up in his garden. He taught me everything in that garden. Actually, I learned walking in that garden too. I learned how to count and how to draw. All my memories are around the central pool, playing hide and seek and daydreaming under the cypress trees, the family gathering in the courtyard and the poetry readings. And at sunset, it was my job to water the roses. My grandfather wasn't only my hero. He was a progressive spiritual leader who was admired by the public and had a popular radio program that ran for many years. After the revolution in 1979, he was a threat for the new government. In the early morning of a beautiful summer, I remember the silence of the house being violated by a thunderous noise. They had assassinated my grandfather. I was 7. At the time, I didn't understand what happened or what it meant, except that the garden was suddenly empty. In 1998, in art school, I discovered a book called Persian Gardens and Garden Pavilions, written by a well-regarded American historian from Princeton named Donald Wilber. Wilber had spent a lot of time in Iran between 1942 and 1970, pursuing his passion, Persian gardens. He wrote once in his book, Persians associate the garden with an historical incident rather than with its own beauty. He became my guy immediately. I immersed myself in his entire studies for years and relearned Persian garden through him. He brought me back my childhood, that innocent joy of the garden before the years of the revolution. That was until 2013, when I encountered a New York Times article reporting that after 60 years, the CIA were declassifying documents from the 1953 coup in Iran, the coup that Americans and British governments had orchestrated to remove the democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, who famously nationalized Iran's oil industry. Reading these CIA documents, I discovered, to my horror, that Wilber, the scholar who I admired so much, in fact, was the mastermind behind the coup. An intervention which permanently upended Iran's social structure and sowed the seeds of the revolution that stole my grandfather's life and changed the lives of millions of people. I felt betrayed. Since then, I've produced many paintings, videos, and installations, as well as organizing workshops and gatherings in which I use Persian gardens as a frame to tap into wider political and cultural issues and raise the questions about Western interventions and versions of history of political landscape. Through my multidisciplinary works, I have always explored our individual perception of place. Over these years, I have been longing for a larger project that would be accessible to a wider audience. I am thrilled to announce that my Creative Capital project, titled Esfahan Flowers Only Once, will be a real public garden that I will build in my adopted home, New York City. A space of both hospitality and resistance, which brings people together to reactivate the history by gathering and gardening, and through various public interventions, a community garden based on Persian garden design. The garden will enact the philosophy behind traditional 4 sacred quadrilaterals, which are also reflected in Persian carpets This geometrical structure with water channels and basins demarcating the quarters will facilitate the organic movement of visitors throughout the space. The interconnected visual principles, including the hexagonal pool and the pavilion, surrounded by medicinal and ornamental plants, will create a space once public and at the same time private, a very unique characteristic of Persian gardens. This garden will invite thinkers, teachers, musicians, historians, poets, storytellers, sociologists that would engage audiences on various social issues such as water politics, botany and colonialism, and many others. The pavilion will host guests year-round, rain or snow, so don't worry about it. Another significant component of the garden is a film. I will make a film that tells the story of the garden in parallel with the history of Wilbur, the Persian garden scholar and spy. Through my personal lens, this will be my first experimental feature film, and it will be screened in the pavilion. This will be a garden of pleasure where we can also consider topics that cause us pain. This garden is a home for marginalized, mediated, untold, and less celebrated stories. Whether you're a native or an invasive plant, you belong to this garden. I'm looking for support locating and securing a site for the garden in Manhattan. Research is a crucial element of my practice. I'm seeking the possibility of support from any universities, museums, or other institutional research institutions that can provide me with time and access to develop the film and the garden. The project budget is $750,000, and the starting budget is $250,000. I hope you will be a part of this community garden, and that before long I will see you by the pool drinking a cup of saffron tea. Thank you.